Hey, fourth graders. Today we're going to be doing one of our reading comprehension activities where we read a story and answer questions about what we read. And this week's story is called What's the Deal with Mold? You guys have probably seen mold on food at your house that has been around a little bit too long. So we are going to read together and then I'll help you kind of get started on the questions. And we're going to do a little highlighting along the way. Just first of all, we've got our title up here. What's the Deal with Mold? By Lydia Lukidis. If you leave a sandwich outside for several days, it will start to look and smell funky. White fuzz begins to form. Then it gets bigger and turns black. This is commonly known as mold. So it starts as white fuzz, and then as it grows and gets bigger, it turns to black. This is commonly known as mold. But what is that weird stuff anyway? And where does it come from? This is important. Mold is a type of fungus. If you're wondering what fungus is, it's a living thing that's not a plant or animal. Mushrooms are another type of fungus. And imagine this. There are literally thousands of different kinds of mold. There's everything from fuzzy white mold to dark blue spotted mold. Some molds have funny names like Scopolarioposis and Areobasidium. Molds can grow in any part of the world, both inside or outside, especially in wet areas. If you've ever wondered where it comes from, the answer might surprise you. Mold actually comes from the air. There are millions of little mold cells floating around in the air. These are called mold spores. If these spores land on a host, like your sandwich, they will eat the bread. So the mold, when you see it, it's actually eating the bread. The spores grow by feeding off the bread. They produce chemicals that break the bread down, and eventually the sandwich rots. Mold can be harmful at times. For example, some types of mold can form in the house. It is common for mold to form on drywall, which is like part of your sheetrock or your walls, or behind the walls. It can also grow on the ceiling or near the windows. Many molds are harmless, but others can release toxic fumes like black mold. These are dangerous to smell. Also, some people have allergies and sensitivities. They can get very sick if they breathe in certain other types of mold. As for the molds that grow on food, they're not good to eat. Think about it. So we're going to go to our next page now, guys, okay? Think about it. So meet me on the next page. Think about it. Would you want to eat a sandwich that's been growing mold for a week? Probably not. If you did, you may get sick. The mold is breaking down the food to the point of being rotten. But there are a few exceptions when coming to eating mold. For example, blue cheese has patches. I don't know if you've ever eaten blue cheese before, but blue cheese actually has patches of mold in it. But it's okay to eat. And the flavor of some hard cheeses is better once the outer layer has mold on it. You don't eat the mold, but if you cut it off, you can still eat the rest of the cheese. Although you may find mold gross, it can also be useful. There is a special kind of mold, this is important, that is used to make penicillin. Penicillin is a medicine. It's a common antibiotic used for many diseases like strep throat. So when you have gone to the doctor because you were not feeling well and you got an antibiotic, It's actually a special kind of penicillin. Mold is also part of our cycle of life. It is a natural environment. Rotting things return to the soil. That provides food for the other plants to grow. Every little thing, including mold, has a purpose in nature. All right, so now we're going to go to our page 3. So meet me on page 3. All right, this is where you are going to be circling the correct answer. Okay, so you're going to look. I don't want to do these with you or for you. Okay, but I want you to read the question. The first one says, choose the statement about mold that is true. There's only going to be one correct answer. So you need to go back and look at your reading, okay, for number 1 and number 2. And then number 3 says, put a check mark next to the statements about mold that are true. Okay, so you're going to be putting check marks by the ones that are true. And I'm going to tell you that there are going to be 2 check marks. So you need to figure out which 2 things are true. When you get down to number 4 and 5, let's read number 4. It says, in most cases, you don't want to eat mold because it could be harmful to your body. But give one example from the text. So that's from what we read together. What's one thing they talked about where you can eat mold? Think back to, there was a certain item that they said that you could eat. And number 5 says, what are mold spores? So you need to go back, find that, and write what that means. Okay? And then we just have one other page. Okay, so meet me on page 4 when you're ready. All right, and we have done these one other time before after a story, guys, so we're going to be matching the vocabulary word with the correct definition. This is stuff that you learned from the story, okay? So let's do the first one together. First word says environment. So environment, what did I learn from the story? And if I was at home and I was working on this, I could go back in the story, find that word, and then look at the words around it to help understand what it means. But let's read our choices, okay? Environment. So let me give you a sentence with that, okay? So if I go back to my story, and you can look back with me, I'm not going to go back on the screen, but if you go back to the very end on the second page, you're going to find that word environment at the very end of the reading. And the way they used it in the sentence was, in a natural environment, rotting things return to the soil. Okay, so think about what that means to you. In a natural environment, okay, just like us living our daily lives, eventually things that are rotting return to the soil. So let's look at our choices that we have over on the right. All right, so here we go. The first one is dangerous, likely to cause harm. I don't think that's it. Next one is a type of medicine that kills harmful bacteria in the body. Nope. Number C is dirt or earth. No. Number D, letter D, the body's overreaction to pollen, fur, or other substances. So that would be like a type of allergy. Next choice is the surroundings in which an animal or plant lives. Ding, ding, ding. So an animal or plant lives, that's their environment. Okay, so I would go up and I would put E for number 1. Okay, and if you get to, like, let's say I'm on number 2 and I'm a little bit stuck, I might go to number 3, and then at the end you won't have as many choices left, so you can kind of figure out, hopefully you can figure out the ones that you were not sure of. So we are not, the last page of this packet is a writing activity. You can do it if you want for extra credit, but you do not have to do it. So if we're doing pages 1 through 4, and you really only need to send me pages 3 and 4. Thanks, guys.